Hi, folks. Welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Is it just me, or does it seem like Joe Biden is just really trying to get us into a war? I mean, I know that he's well known for sticking his foot in his mouth over the last 40 years now. Even he has admitted that. But my goodness, when you're on foreign soil and you're there, trying to negotiate some kind of peace or come up with some kind of plan to possibly avoid World War III, it's probably not a good time to, on TV, tell your own troops that soon they're going to be going to war, that soon they'll be in Ukraine, which is exactly what he did. The next day, he gave a speech, I believe, in Poland. And at the end of the speech, he called for the removal of Vladimir Putin. He said that he must go. This, by many standards, would be considered a big escalation towards war. And in fact, Russia has responded pretty much saying that this is, in a sense, NATO and the United States declaring war on Russia. A different type of war, maybe, but in their minds, they are interpreting this as a act of war against their homeland. I mean, we all knew that this was going to happen when he was elected president. I mean, it does matter who's in office sometimes. And it does appear that this is just his, elderly slipping of the tongue, but who knows? I mean, it could be intentional. We also heard while he was overseas this weekend that, guess what? Those food shortages that we've been talking about for a year now, and we've been told over and over and over again that it was nothing but some conspiracy theory, that we were wrong when we posted pictures online and talked about how the shelves were becoming more and more empty. That's not true. Well, it wasn't then, but now it is, and food shortages are very real. In fact, he said it twice in the same speech, or at least spoke of food shortages twice. Now, of course, their spin on this is that, well, it's all Putin's fault. Up until the moment that he invaded Ukraine, everything was fine. I mean, the economy was great, inflation was low, gasoline was cheap, the supply chain was just buzzing along like a, fine-tuned clock. Store shelves were filled all the time, until that day that Putin invaded Ukraine. And now it's just all gone to heck in a handbasket. I mean, inflation's just going up, up, up. The prices of everything has gone up. And the supplies of a lot of things are getting less and less. At least that's what they're telling us, that it's all his fault. Now, we've talked about this whole supply chain and the food shortages quite a bit. And I almost hesitated at even talking about it, because sometimes I just feel like I'm just beating the drum a little too much. But on the other hand, I also feel like that I can't talk about it enough, because there's now an even stronger possibility that we're going to see real serious food shortage. We will most definitely experience skyrocketing food prices. And just the skyrocketing food prices alone could result easily in food shortages. There will be food shortages all over this world, even if, and this is just my opinion, but even if today they sign some kind of ceasefire treaty, whatever, over in Ukraine and Russia, I think that at least for the year, we would see, and it could last even longer. And that's if it all ended today, because these sanctions and everything on Russia, they wouldn't go away right away. They would last very possibly for years. In fact, embargoes and sanctions and things like that that have been done in the past to other countries tend to end up being a pretty bad thing. I mean, you could definitely make the connection of the economic collapse and hyperinflation in Germany back in the 1820s to the restrictions and stuff that was put on Germany after World War I. So that's not going to go away anytime too soon. And it could be much worse, and I believe it will be much worse than what most people believe it will be. I think because, especially here in America, I think that we're so separated from this concept of famine, this concept of a food shortage, this concept of just not having enough, that although we've seen it in pictures and in movies in other countries and in other time periods, we can't really wrap our heads around what it's going to be like to not have the food that we need, and or at least that we want, and most likely that we need just to get by. And what's out there is going to be just astronomical prices, very possibly, because it's not just that well, America will feed ourselves and it'll be our food and it'll be a little higher. America's going to end up feeding the whole world. Well, that's pretty much what Biden pledged to Europe, that between Canada and America, that we'll make up for the losses from Ukraine and Russia. And while here in the United States, we may not get a whole lot of food from Ukraine and Russia. I mean, we do get some. We do get some. But we may not get a big bulk of our food from there. But Europe's different, and so is the Middle East, and so is parts of Africa. In fact, most of Africa, Middle East, and Europe, a big, huge portion of their food comes from Russia, Ukraine, and the whole Black Sea area. And so with that taken out of the, or at least a large portion of it taken out of the figures, it's going to mean some very serious shortages, very serious famine level shortages. In fact, the United Nations World Food Program, they're saying it's going to be hell on earth. And this is the director of that. He said it's going to be unimaginable, the problems, because they were already in deficits. A lot of these countries were already dealing with this. A lot of the Middle Eastern countries were already suffering because of all various reasons when it came to food. And then now with this added on top of it, it's going to be bad. They're going to see refugees moving from the Middle East and or Africa and trying to move into Europe. And of course, Europe's not going to be a whole lot better, a little bit, but not a whole lot. And the only reason they're going to be any better is because the United States is going to sit there and bail them out. But then there's all these migrants moving everywhere, which, of course, we cannot forget, is all part of the World Economic Forum. In fact, they predicted that several years ago with their You'll Own Nothing and Be Happy campaign. Well, they also talked about getting the world prepared for migrations of refugees. Well, exactly this is happening. And we're going to see that more. So while America has the capacity to grow enough food for us Americans, it's going to be shipped out. I mean, it already is. I've received personal information, personal contacts from people, and I've also read it online of how even to as of now, the vast majority of food and grain, things like that, that's being put on barges and being put on trains is going overseas. It's going elsewhere, a huge number of it. And that's not going to get any better. It's going to get worse because, as I just said, Biden has already pledged that America and Canada will pick up the bill. Okay, we'll take care of it. And it's going to just make things worse. Well, the problem is it's not just about actual food shortages and actual inflation and actual shipping supplies and things like that. There's other things that are going up. Fuel, of course, is going up. And I've been reading that some of these truck drivers are saying that they're spending, almost, if not more than $1,000 every couple of days just in fuel for their rigs. That's going to really start hurting eventually. And there's going to be truckers, that, especially independent ones, that may not even be able to continue working. There's shortages on DEF, the diesel exhaust fluid. That's still a real thing, and there's still a shortage of it. And then, of course, there's shortages of fertilizer. Look at this chart here. This is the price of fertilizer. You see that little spike in the middle? That was back in the 2008 recession. Now look all the way over at the end. See how that thing just keeps going up, up, up? It's just like a rocket ship. And that's the price of fertilizer because there's shortages and it's just expensive. And I've heard again directly from farmers, big farms, that are saying that they can't even afford to plant this year. Between the fact that there's no fertilizer, what's available is too expensive, the cost of fuel, the cost of everything else, they can't even afford to put anything into the ground. And many are putting stuff in the ground and just hoping for the best because they don't have fertilizers or other, chemicals that they use to grow all the food. Even though I don't agree with the chemicals, the fact is that's what's used to produce so much food, and they don't have it. And this is just a growing big problem, and a lot of people are starting to kind of wake up, and not enough, but definitely some people. And I don't think it's enough yet to see mass panic in the grocery stores. But I will say this, I say on here all the time, stock up. The more we're hearing about this, I mean, the president himself now has talked about it. And because of that, that's forced basically mainstream news to start covering it. And mainstream news is actually covering it and saying that there will be food shortages. Does that mean that everyone's going to wake up and realize that that's true? Certainly not. But there could be a certain percentage of people that were kind of on the edge, and that was enough to propel them to realize they need to start stocking up. And even if it's just a small percentage of people, 2, 3, 4, 5%. As we all know, over the last several months, the store shelves are kind of, right on that edge of, just barely enough to get by because they empty out so quickly. You add another 3, 4, 5% people that's really going in there to stock up, it's going to deplete those already very thin shelves of food pretty quickly. This is a perfect storm. I've been talking about this for over a year now. And a year ago when I was talking about it, I didn't know all the stuff that's happened today. And so it was a perfect storm then, and I'm telling you, it's a much bigger perfect storm. It is a massive storm coming upon us. And so many people just don't get it. People in my own family, I've tried to talk to them. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. There'll be enough food. We produce more food than the whole planet. We'll do fine. We'll do fine. Well, we may not. We talked just a week or so ago about how the growing drought problem here in the United States. In fact, they're predicting that this year will be the worst year yet. And we've been hearing that for the last few years because it just keeps getting worse every year. It's the worst drought now, they say, in 1,200 years in the United States, and it goes all the way from the Missouri-Kansas state line west. I mean, pretty much every state, there already are fires. There's fires all over eastern Texas. There's been evacuations in Colorado because of wildfires. It's already started, folks, and it's just spring just started. It's not going to get any better. And I don't want to sound like a doomsdayer because a lot of people they don't like that. They don't want it to sound like a doomsdayer. And I don't really like that either because I'm not on here to scare people. I'm on here to tell you that you can still get prepared. It's not too late. I mean, it's getting close, I'll admit. You'd have been way better off 6 months ago, a year ago, 5 years ago. But it's still not too late. It's not too late to get out there and stock up. And don't just stock up on 1 or 2 little items. You need to really be aggressive about it. And I'm not telling you to go into debt and charge up your credit cards and take out a second mortgage, and all that kind of stuff. But you probably need to be so serious about it that you're willing to actually make real sacrifices in your life. And if nothing else, you're going to do it because it's an insurance policy, because, that 49-cent or 59-cent or 69-cent can of green beans right now could be $2 or $3 a year from now. And while it would be available, wouldn't it be better to eat a can that only cost you 50 cents versus $3? And so that's another reason to stock up on, not just because there won't be any, but because what's there is just way too expensive and you're going to end up saving money. Just like if you put money into a stock market right now, you could make money. Well, this is the same way. And so it just makes sense. There's not really anything negative about it. Make sure you're buying foods that have at least a year to 1 to 2 year shelf life, at least. You're not stocking up on something that's only going to last for 30 days on the shelf. And make sure you're stocking up on food that you already eat. Just look at it as a pantry, and you're not stocking up on stuff to just put away and never look at it. Make that like your grocery store. That's what we do here. we go shopping out of our own pantry when it's time to cook a meal. And we replenish that pantry when we go to the grocery store. And so it's a working pantry. It's not just food that's just stored away and that you never think about. You're actually using it. And so it's beneficial to you all the time, not just in times of desperation. This is what people need to get serious about, folks. I mean, we've got a president saying over and over again that there will be food shortages, and it's going to be very real, and it's going to be bad. We've got the United Nations predicting that it's going to be hell on earth, famine level, biblical level famine. When we've got CEOs, billionaires, market experts, everyone. I mean, a lot of people are out there warning people. Farmers, agricultural market experts, everyone is saying people need to wake up. It's going to get bad. It's probably a good idea to take it serious. It's probably a good idea to get out there and stock up, because whether it's just high food or it's all the way to the extreme that there is just no food, either way, it's a really good reason to get prepared as possible, to get your house in order, not just with food, but with other things too. Have a good water supply, a good source, a way to clean it. Have plenty of medical supplies on hand, because that's also becoming in short supply. Over-the-counter meds, prescription meds if you're able to. Make sure your self-defense plans are in place and you have the tools to do that. Make sure your home and your shelter is in place, how to heat it, how to cool it. I made a video earlier today talking about all kinds of other items that would be really good for you to stock up on, because as all this gets worse and as we continue to watch the collapse of our civilization, and that's right, that is what's happening during this great reset, there's going to be a lot more things happen than just food supply. Folks, get your houses in order. Prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and most especially spiritually. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.